Hello, guys, and welcome again to another 5 Good Questions. Today, we're interviewing an artist in my local area. Her business is the Chrome Lens Photography, and her name is Kristi Martin. Kristi Martin, correct?
Correct.
All right, good to meet you.
Yes, good to meet you, Squall.
All right, and you'll notice it's a lady. All right, so Kristi has a little bit of we went to school together, so we have a little bit of background, and she's been interested in artistry for quite a few years, in creativity, and that will be mostly what this interview is about. So just a heads up for you guys. Okay, is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
No, just we can go on with the questions.
All right, we can dive right into the questions. All right.
In.
Okay, so the first question, what is your background in art?
Well, my background in art, I won my first art contest as a first grader in elementary school, and it was a school-related project, and always was interested in art at Milford Elementary here in Indiana, and just that kind of kick-started it, giving me the confidence that I was being rewarded for being good at art. It was something that always interested me before that, even as my mom has a drawing that I drew as a 2-year-old. And from there, I would say my grandfather was always interested in art, so we always did that together, and he bought me my first camera at 10 years old. It was a film camera. So I basically got started in photography, which is my now profession, as early as 10 years old. Always had my camera on the playground. I've got photographs of my childhood friends that I took. And so just from there, I always dove right into art whenever I could. It was always a class that was offered throughout elementary and in middle school. But then when I got into high school, that was definitely my main focus when I was choosing my electives. I always had 2 or 3 art classes, and then as a senior, I worked up into mainly half of my day was spent in the art room or in the photo lab, and did all different mediums, and always knew that I was going to be an artist. I never had any other aspirations to do anything else but go to art school after my high school career. So that was my start in it, and kind of my beginning into my adult career.
Now, do you remember what the first camera you had was?
Oh gosh. It was a 110 film camera, but I don't remember the make and model. I don't have it any longer. It was
Was it one of the ones that when you took the picture it spat it out?
No, it wasn't a
Polaroid.
It wasn't a Polaroid.
Okay.
No, it was a true film camera. So, learning how to use the functions on it, the element of surprise when you got your film back.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of all of that generation. But now it's digital. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And before, if you messed it up, you couldn't get those moments back. So that taught me to trust my abilities as well as the camera.
Mm-hmm. You're like your inner eye for seeing.
Right.
Well, this would
and
be
using light.
Yeah, using light, using background effectively, other stuff like that. Now, were there in your background, were there teachers who were like, yeah, go for this, go for this? It's supportive, encouraging of your craft?
Always, yes, always. My elementary and middle school teacher was Mrs. Potter at Milford, and she and I are still close. She's always rooted for me and always encouraged me. They had a pretty decent art program there at the elementary. A lot of that's being taken out of the schools, I know, because I have a 7-year-old and I see where those programs have gone. So that encouragement is not there for the youth like it was for me then. And then in high school, knowing that, and there were two or three other artists that came out of my generation in Wawasee High School that we all knew we wanted to be artists, and we weren't competitive because we all did different things, but we were always supported. College visits were something that were encouraged, and just, anything that Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Bryan at the high school could do to help us, they would do anything that we needed, because they, believed in us. So that always helped. And my family always supported it as well, because knowing that you're going into art and getting an art degree isn't something that's gonna make you millions. So, it's not, some families probably wouldn't support it, but my family was always super supportive with that.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to be a Picasso, but you can at least try to achieve that level.
Right.
Who is the famous photographer? The one who does it for Nat Geo.
Well, some of my favorite landscape type artists are like Ansel Adams. He's very, very early photography inspiration for me. That's not necessarily what I do, but the appreciation and the way he worked his craft was certainly something that I learned over and over again, because he was definitely a pioneer.
The person I'm thinking of, they did a lot of the war pictures for Nat Geo, and a lot of like the Vietnam War, Korean War. Pictures, if framed correctly, can either strike fear, or it can play on your feelings depending on what it's of. Like when in the past, when they would put those pictures out and say, well, here's what's going on in such and such place, how do they feel? How does the public feel about it? And it's like the people releasing the pictures are drawing upon the emotions of the public to sway public opinion for or against something. Like nowadays, it would be, well, we have the YouTube videos, and we used to have Vines and even Twitter. You can post media automatically and get an immediate response of like, well, another good example, the Electronic Entertainment Expo is going on this weekend, and a lot of that is being put on YouTube and streamed and stuff like that, and people are commenting over it and whether it's good or bad or not. So nowadays, currently in this current climate, we have more accessibility to media and more people releasing that media to affect the public in different ways.
Well, just as along those lines, like Instagram has turned everyone into a photographer. Type thing. Even
if they're not good at it.
Right. And I enjoy Instagram. It's great for my business, as well as sharing moments and things like that with my friends and my clients. But like you said, just a framed photograph can still strike an image, and even if somebody else is taking a picture on Instagram, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I'm still probably gonna do it better, or it's taken with my phone on Instagram, but the one on my camera is gonna be a lot better.
Yeah, plus how to do it correctly, how to frame yourself in an appealing fashion.
Right, and even with a phone, I can do that.
And with a phone. All right. Well, I think we delved off a little bit off track there.
That's okay.
All right. So the next question: which medium do you prefer? Well, we already said photography, but let's like what kind of camera? What do you use to go along with the photographs?
My personal preference has always been Nikon, and I use a variety of lenses. My main focus is usually using a fixed focal point lens that will, I don't use a lot of zoom lenses. I zoom more with my legs. If I need to be closer, I walk closer or walk farther behind. That's just the way my brain works. I like zoom lenses and I've used them here and there and I have a couple, but mainly I like to just have the 35 millimeter open lens effect. That's kind of a go-to portrait, and that's what a lot of back in the 60s and that's the go-to lens that a lot of people used back then for media and taking portraiture. And I also use a fisheye lens to, I've always just loved that wide open space effect that gives. Tiny person, big world. I like that look. That's something that a lot of people don't use or don't know how to use.
It's because when people do use it, they don't have an eye for using it. Because a lot of people who do that online, they get crap for it. Mm-hmm. They're like, "Why are you doing this? It looks horrible."
Yeah, and I like that effect, and I've learned how to use it in a different kind of way. Mm-hmm. And I know other artists that use it, and it's definitely visually appealing, but I've also seen it done wrong. So artistically, that would probably be one of my kind of off the beaten path ways of shooting. But other than that, mainly just stick to the portrait lenses. I've got a couple other wide lenses. With my wedding work, I have to have the variety to catch moments with different. I use 2 cameras when I do weddings, and then I also have a second shooter with me so that no moment is lost. All angles are covered. If something were to go terribly wrong, no one's ever even going to know it because I've got another camera, backup, everything.
Mm-hmm. Another shooter.
And another shooter.
Another. That kind of could portray the context
I know.
of.
Well, when you say you're shooting babies, it sounds kind of weird sometimes. I've got to shoot a baby today. People know what I mean, though, and I don't even think anything of it when I say it.
Yeah, context, but like some people like to use the really big, like you see the cameras with all the scope to get like.
A lot of that's used for sports or motorcycle racing or car racing and stuff like that, where you have to be farther away. Mm-hmm. I've never been into sports at all or sports photography, and those lenses are awesome, but I don't have a need for something like that. Some wedding work is done with cameras or with lenses like that. I have some other colleagues that use lenses like that, and they're way far behind, and that's just how they shoot. I like to be, apart from getting right up in their face, I like to be closer to the action, and I just feel like I'm more part of it, I guess.
That way you could take more spontaneous pictures.
Right. That's how I feel. And I have a keen way of, and I've been complimented on this before with other people that I shoot with, that I have a way of anticipating a moment, and that's what it takes. I know something's going to happen before it happens, probably because I've done this for a very long time, and I know, not all weddings are the same, but you can kind of feel like, okay, something's going to happen, and I get incredibly connected to my clients, so I know them on a personal level, and I can think, okay, well, she's really feeling something right now, better be ready to capture it.
Yeah. Yep. I like the perfect moment when they smash the cake in each other's faces.
And you never know if that's going to happen or not, but I have to be there and be ready for it. So. Yeah.
And it's good that you take such a personal interest in your clients and their lives and stuff like that. That way you are able to get that more personal touch with your photography, which I feel a lot of photography nowadays, it's because it's so staged, there's less of an impact than it could have.
Right. It's not the the moments in between. It's just the moments. And
yeah.
a lot of the pictures or the images that I end up giving the client in the end, they don't even remember them happening. So it's an element of surprise for them. I mean, they felt it, they were a part of it, but they don't remember that exact moment. So, you know, that's what means more to them than any of the posed pictures.
The small moments that happen during the wedding and the
the candid
reception,
stuff.
Candid stuff. That's good. Okay. Also, you use a computer for touching up your pictures. Can we get into that a little bit?
Primarily, I use Photoshop for editing images. I use a Mac computer.
She uses a Mac. Let me stop you right there. She uses a Mac. Let me tilt this to the side. There's her Mac right there. All right. So, you guys in the commenters, I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, yeah.
You don't like Mac?
Yeah, no. My audience.
Your audience does not like
is
Mac.
PC only.
I am not extremely technically inclined, unfortunately. And Mac was what I started with, so that's what I've stuck with. It was what I learned on when I was in college. And apart from doing photography on the computer or looking something up online, that's all I do. So I don't need any other than that.
Yeah, but the issue is also, you guys, Macs are Apple products. They're more creative. They allow you more creative freedom than a PC does. There are a lot of good suites for Mac. She said Photoshop, which Photoshop is also on PC.
Right.
But there's probably other applications that you use that are Mac specific. Or if they have been ported to PC, then they have a little more issue than with.
Because they're Mac friendly.
Because they're Mac friendly. They're not PC friendly. So there, you guys. In your face.
No, and I would never knock PC or anything that anybody does on that. I don't even know how to do half the stuff that these PC people do. And they're, I think they're wizards. That kind of stuff is cool to me, but it's something that I'll never be able to do. So I can appreciate the craft that they do, for sure.
Because a lot of people, they create video games and they create, digital characters.
Right, and so doing video and things like that is better on a PC. Mac and PC both have good and bad parts of the editing process, of the making video like right now we're using OBS to record this. OBS is a free program. I'm pretty sure Mac has a better program for recording audio and video. There's other also I can stream on this to my Twitch channel, which I would probably have an easier time on a Mac than on a PC with it, because Apple products, when they're made specifically for something, they're made to do that specific something well, whereas PC is a hodgepodge of this, that, and the other, and you can do everything good but not everything well. Whereas Mac, you can do one thing perfectly, very well, because that's the difference between that. So anyway, so you use Photoshop. Are there any other photo suites that you use? I use Bridge, and that's also an Adobe product. A Bridge is where I would upload all of my photos into, and then they'll be in folders, such and such wedding, such and such baby, 6 months. And then I drag them into Photoshop to edit them. Okay,
and then you can save. If you don't like what you did with the original, then you can just go back and pull the original in there.
Correct.
Like one of the biggest issues is red eye. I know a lot of people, when they take photographs, they get the red eye effect, which I know photo suites nowadays are like, you just press a button and boom, it gets rid of it.
Right. You usually have to select the actual red eye. And I shoot mainly natural light. I don't use flash. So I don't get a lot of red eye personally, which I would hate correcting constantly. And so learning how to use natural light, avoiding shadows, and not having to deal with the red eye is something that I don't encounter very often. If I do use flash, yes, I do get red eye here and there. But yeah, it is an easy fix. A lot of with Photoshop, I do all of my retouching and stuff like that. A lot of photographers use Lightroom, which is another Adobe product and I have it, but I don't. I learned on Photoshop. I'm pretty old school, and I am probably the only person in the world that still edits an entire wedding in Photoshop. People think I'm crazy. So I open up every single image, and I have thousands to go through. I mean, I can look at my folder, because I take several of every image, mostly. So I select the ones that I really like, and then I can always go back if the one I had selected was blurry and there's one right next to it that's probably in focus, and maybe sometimes not, but usually I've set myself up for success. But yeah, I open up every single image in Photoshop, crop them, enhance them, contrast, tonal adjustments, black and white conversion, and then the photo retouching if the face needs work or anything like that, or eyes need brightened, or I keep it pretty light editing, because I still want it to look like the real person.
Yeah,
obviously I'm not trying to make them all
natural.
look like supermodels, superimpose Jennifer Aniston's head on somebody or whatever, which can be done relatively easily in Photoshop. But yeah, I open up every single image. I spend probably about a minute to 2 minutes on every image. So in the end, when you get your, after I went through your thousands of photographs, I mean, you could get, I do anywhere from 700 to 1,000 images for a complete wedding collection edited.
But based on the event though,
Correct.
Like the baby pictures.
Right, that would render probably sometimes 50, usually 50 to 100. I overshoot. I take a lot more pictures than I need to. And if it's a good picture, I don't throw it away.
Exactly.
There's no reason to, just throw it out. That's a moment in time you're never going to get back, and I'll give it to you. I don't limit it to, okay, you only get 20 or 30 images, type thing. So.
Well, because see, if you had to limit it to that, you'd have to get the best of everything.
Right.
Whereas with the 50 to 100, you have a lot more wiggle room to decide. Well, this picture is better than this picture.
And then you also get those moments in between again, type thing.
Which I think the patrons would be more willing to be like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is a moment that we knew happened, but we didn't know
Right.
Realization hits them afterwards that, hey, this is what happened, and it's cool that the photographer caught this. So we got. Now, do you keep up to the current Photoshop edition? Okay, because it's like 8.10 now.
I don't even remember.
You don't know. Okay.
My computer prompts me to update it if I need to.
Okay. Now, are there any things between versions, like any settings or any options that you miss for previous versions, or that you wish they would add to new versions?
No, because Photoshop does about 20 million other things that I don't even know it does. I use it on a very basic level. You can do all kinds of video, anything with it. I don't know how to do half, not even a quarter of what Photoshop can do. So the basic things that I need from it haven't ever changed.
Okay.
So
you basically use just the photography stuff. You don't delve into the other part, because it's quite a deep program. There's quite a lot of stuff on it. I don't have it myself, but if I did, I would get it for free.
Yeah, you can do that.
Because it's quite an expensive suite. But you get a lot of stuff with it, which
And even if I got it for free, I would use it once and then never use it again.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, oh, this program's too hard.
It is. You've got to be taught how to do it, or read a manual or something.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to invest my time into something that I'll use once and never use again.
Right.
As it is, there's tons of stuff on this computer, my laptop, even my desktop that I don't use. All right. So let's go. Okay, we were talking about Ansel Adams earlier, but who are your other inspirations / role models concerning photography and artwork as a whole?
Well, obviously all of the greats like Picasso, Monet, all of those
The
traditional painting
painters,
type guys were, things that I learned in art history. And even as far as just different areas of the world where art is and how it is interpreted and how it is, the Mayans and things like that, really kind of, I can appreciate art on all different levels because I've been taught throughout my art history in college and in high school that, you can appreciate beauty in a lot of different ways. You don't have to be a perfectionist to get it right. I like a lot of abstract and impressionist work. And
things where you can take your own perspective on.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Like, it's a brown circle. What is it? It's a pile of poo.
Right. And that's not something that's done in photography a lot. It is done, and there are very artistic photographers out there doing lots of crazy different things. That's not what I do, but I certainly appreciate it when I see it. One influence for me is Annie Leibovitz, and she's a portrait artist, and I just always have loved and been drawn into her images. She's got kind of a connection with kind of the rock and roll, type.
Rolling Stone. Okay, that's what I was thinking of when I was thinking of the World War pictures. But that it wasn't necessarily her, but it was somebody that's part of her genre.
Yeah, and just the way she connected with her people. She has a quote that she was never afraid to fall in love with her subjects, and I think that really spoke to me, just because I could then connect and realize how she was able to get those images and those feelings, and it was because she had the heart and connection with them.
A more personal connection, which that's a callback to what we were talking about earlier.
Correct.
Well, yeah, that's...
So she's probably one of my favorites. I've got a couple of her books.
The coffee table books?
Okay. Yeah, and also kind of a biography book that she'd written too, which is nice. So, autobiography.
She's one of the bigger names out there, I would think.
And then just online, there's a app, I think it would be considered, called 500px, 500 pics. And it's something that artists can post. They have their own profile, and then they'll have their images in their folder or their profile, and that's fun to flip through. There's anything from, macro photography with flowers and animals and landscape, and then lots of portraits and all over the board. So it's very inspirational to see all of the different spectrums and all of the different things being done out there and done well.
See, and you can also, if a certain picture is like, this is really inspiring, how did the artist do this?
Right.
How did they, did they shoot it at night? Did they shoot it while riding in a train car?
Right.
Or how did they get that so perfect shot?
Right. Yeah, everybody goes about it in a different way, and usually, you study it long enough, you can figure out how they got it, just because I know how light and how movement works. Some people take it to quite the extreme to get an image, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, like going up a mountain.
Right.
Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Or even going down into the sea, into the Marianas Trench, into deep down.
And then there is sometimes you look at something and you're like, how on earth did they get that? And they've nailed it then, because that's what they wanted. So
you can be like so impressed with the shot. It's because it's like it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
And that happens.
And if you're right there and you can have the inclination to be like, camera, boom, and get it and catch that moment in time.
I wish I had my camera for that type thing.
Yep. I know that. All right. So, fourth question: any advice for aspiring artists / photographers? Now, we were discussing you have a Nikon. Would you recommend that for beginners? Probably not for beginners, probably for more advanced people. What would you recommend for beginners?
Honestly, I recommend for beginners, if it's someone at the high school level or even a middle schooler that's super interested and willing to invest in their first DSLR, I always recommend the Canon Rebel, to be honest. It's very user-friendly and it takes a great image, and Nikon's lower-end cameras, I don't think are as good as the Canon Rebel. You have to get up to a certain level in Nikon before I can appreciate the way the image looks and the way the camera works. But the Canon Rebel is just kind of, and I don't know, there may be another one now, but I have recommended that to, my daughter's in gymnastics and I'd like to start taking pictures of her. And everybody, or my child's getting into photography in high school. They've always been pleased with it when they get it. You can get different lenses and invest and make your camera more, and then
to personalize it,
right, and then just like a basic lens, if you want to get into portraiture, I would do like I'd recommend like the 35 millimeter, but usually it's a like 18 to 75 or 18 to 200, I think, is like a kit lens that will come with the camera. And that gives them a good range to start learning and training their eye and seeing what they want to shoot with lens-wise. As far as, apart from just the equipment, I always tell aspiring artists too, you don't necessarily have to go to college to be an artist.
Okay.
And I feel personally that it's that way with almost anything these days. I don't think it's right that kids feel like they have to go to college and go for 2 years and fail out and waste money and then start all over. I could have easily I do have an art degree, Bachelor in Fine Arts, but I had to take the English classes, the math classes, and all of those other things along with it. Hello.
Oh, we have a guest.
Shut those, buddy, please. That's my son Memphis.
Maybe not. All right.
But I always tell them that they can achieve that just by going to a camp for a week in Maine, or there's so many different things you can do with art and learn from actual artists that have been trained, and instead of being taught by just a professor and going through math and English and all of those things.
Okay, good. Also, this podcast not sponsored by either Nikon or Canon, just to get that out there.
And obviously I recommend both, so I'm not biased to either, so.
But you're biased against other cameras.
Yeah, no. I mean, I see some great work coming out of Sony now. And that's, I would say, kind of an up and coming thing within the last few years. It's really burst out on the scene with their images are super crisp, very, very cool stuff happening with Sony. So it's just something that I'm not trained how to use their camera. Not that I couldn't learn, but I've invested in this. My cameras are well maintained, and I'm not going to cross over.
They're customized to your
right.
to your settings.
Yeah, I've built my kit and I'm fine with it. So, but yeah, I certainly appreciate any image that comes out of a great camera, apart from somebody's phone.
Yeah, phones, cameras are known for.
You're not going to pay whatever it is you pay for one of these DSLRs and get crap. I mean, you know, it is what it is. You pay a little more, you probably get something a little better.
Yeah, it's you get what you pay for kind of thing.
Yep.
Are these little digital knockoff cameras that they sell at like Dollar General, stuff like that. Poor quality images.
Right, poor quality images, but you know, a nice point and shoot for a grandpa.
Yeah, for a grandpa. All right, well, you guys got that out of the way. All right, and last question. What future projects do you have in the works?
Future projects, well, I'm pretty, I book out about a year for weddings. So my wedding work begins in May and usually takes me into November. But that's primarily weekends, usually one weekend day a week. But not every week.
Because I don't think anybody would book a wedding during a week.
Well, I have done Sunday weddings before, but not during the week, no. Yeah. But, I mean, it could certainly be done, and I would think it would be a fine idea. But other projects in the works are just, I work with a lot of families every year, and I also, you know, if a lot of my clients that I started with as weddings end up having children, and then I start working with them on that level and family shoots and stuff like that. So that relationship I built with them will carry into more work for me. As far as creative projects, I do like to do the you know, concept stuff where I found maybe some kind of crazy dress or have some crazy idea in my head that I want to see witch-like form in a pond or something. So I'll set all that up and find somebody to model for that. I haven't gotten to do, I used to do a lot more of that, and I need to get back to doing more of things like that just to spice up my creative energy. And also, you know, just getting inspiration from other photographers, seeing what they're doing and how they've time balanced to find room to do that. You know, obviously being mom and working as a self-employed person, it's you know, leaves a little time for fun stuff, but I need to find that just to keep my creativity going.
Yeah.
So yeah, future plans, more creative. Maybe some more shows. I've entered shows before. That usually gets me, you know, gets the ball rolling for me to do a shoot if I've asked to be in a show or if there's a show coming up I'd like to be in. So.
And it would go around a specific theme or
correct,
depending on what it was.
Sometimes the shows are theme based, and sometimes it can be whatever you want.
Okay, that I think it'd be pretty cool to enter a show but at least try to get one of the top prizes. Even if you feel okay, the artist's perspective, everything you feel that you do is crap, right? Even if other people think that it's good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I wouldn't say crap, but, you know, you do have a lower sense of confidence about your work and you don't know how it's going to speak to people either.
Exactly. You don't know what...
You might feel something totally different.
Yeah, it's dependent on the person.
And it really hurts your feelings when you're super connected to something and then nobody else feels it, you know.
Or they criticize you. They're like, this is a horrible picture. Why did you take it?
Right.
All right, so I got one last question for you.
Okay.
The viewers, you can see she's got tattoos. She's got tattoos. I've got tattoos. Are there any specific rules for photographing tattoos?
Actually, I have been in 2 years in a row. I was in a show called, it was something Inc. It was in Chicago, but it was a tattoo-based competition. And I got in, there was no prizes or anything, but you could sell your work. But I got in 2 years in a row. There isn't, and especially with the way I shoot, and it wasn't about the actual tattoo. It was about creating, like for instance, that image up there was one that was in the tattoo competition up there with the gal walking in the field. So that she's got tattoos, but it's more about the image too. But yeah, as far as photographing them, you want them to probably come out crisp and detailed, because you're also representing, you're showcasing the actual tattoo artist's work too. So you're representing another artist, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to misrepresent them.
Make the tattoo look kind of bad.
Right.
Like,
but the way I do.
For an example, this is mine right here, which is the Japanese symbol for wind, and you can see it's kind of faded. The artist who did that is actually a mutual friend of ours, Duke Blosser, if you know who that is. He's got a tattoo studio in Plymouth right now. But he did one of my pieces. Has he done any pieces on you?
No, he hasn't. No.
Is that something that would be in the future, possibly?
With him?
Yeah, to get a tattoo from him?
I work primarily with a couple of different artists that I worked with over the years, and I don't have any interest in getting a tattoo in the near future. I don't have anything on the plate right now, but even if somebody asks me, who would you go to, I always recommend one of those two artists, because they have different styles, and it's style specific. Or if they come up to me and say, well, I want to get a tattoo, who should I go to? It's like, well, what do you want? It depends on what it is you're wanting to get, because some artists can't do certain things.
Yeah, there's the artists who aren't very good at it. Duke calls them scratch artists. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want my art done by somebody who does art like that.
Right.
Throwing shade at you guys. You guys just need to be a little bit better.
Well, and it takes practice, just like everything else.
It takes practice, takes skill. Now, personally for me, to go back a little bit, there was only one teacher who encouraged me to find my creative energy, and that was my creative writing teacher, Mr. Iden. He was a very great teacher. None of my other teachers encouraged me in anything. The art teachers that she discussed earlier, they disliked me pretty much. They were like, you're not going to be an artist. No way you're going to be an artist. So I just decided to be an artist with my words instead of with my pictures. So, all right. So let's see. One more, which is Chrome Lens. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's www.thechromelens.com. So it's THECHROMELENS. Chrome Lens.
TheChromeLens.com. And you have your pricing listed
I have a form that you can submit with interest to hire, and I quote directly with each client.
Okay, based on what they want.
Correct.
Like baby pictures would be a range between 25 to 100. Wedding pictures would be maybe between 100 to 500.
Yeah, it just depends on what. And I have direct email then that explains everything that they are going to get, and it just creates that personal connection from the get-go.
And then you meet them in person.
Correct.
And then it goes a little farther, and you're able to read them. So, all right. Well, this has been 5 Good Questions with Kristi Artist. Kristi, I am bad with words today.
It's all right.
a tragedy of errors today. Tragedy of errors with Kristi Martin, a professional photographer. So, if you guys have any questions for her, you can go to her website, submit it up to her, or you can leave comments down below, and I will send them to her, and might get a response depending on how she is. She's currently busy right now, so we'll see. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and have a great day.